And the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, you know, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, you know, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, you know, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so,
what I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
you know, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, you know, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so,
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Bobby Conway trying to defend God against the divine hiddenness argument. He's only going to provide the most emotionally manipulative and false dilemma-ridden response to the divine hidden argument. And tonight, we're going to be taking a look at his full counter argument to it. And boy, is it riddled with false information as well as illogical arguments and premises and all this other shit. So if you want to fuck around and find out how illogical and fallaciously composed Bobby Conway's argument against divine hiddenness is, then please stay tuned. Alright, heathen. So, as you guys know, here on the Godless Engineer channel, we donate a portion of all of our revenue to some kind of charitable effort or charity each month. And this month, we're going to be donating to the Trevor Project, with next month being the Transgender Law Center. So, if you guys want to help us support the LGBTQ plus community, consider doing a super chat, becoming a Skeptic Mafia member, watching our videos, commenting on our videos, sharing your videos out with people that you probably hate. Doing all of that really helps us donate to great causes and keeps us as one of the shittiest atheist channels out here on YouTube. So if y'all want to help us out, please do those things. Now, with all of the boilerplate stuff out of the way, I can't wait to hear from you guys tonight, either the Skeptic Mafia through your comments on the video or through the super chats. But we got a full show tonight. We've got some Today I Learned, we've got comments, we've got shitty ass science, and we've got the response. And then we've got the Skeptic Mafia. So we need to hurry up and get on into this shit. What up there, Cadence? Doing a super chat there for the LGBTQ plus charities. Thank you so much, Cadence. I appreciate you a lot. Which there should be, hopefully the notification should be popping up here soon. Tonight's drink of choice is huge bottles of water. I'm chugging, just yeah. It's masquerading as Bud Light tonight, so just so you know, because it's so clear. Anyways, all right. So y'all ready to get on into the Today I Learned? I know that I am. I'm ready. You're ready? No. I'm not ready because I don't have my ukulele. All right, perfectly out of tune. Let's do it. Today I learned. Woohoo! Woohoo! It was my dad's birthday recently, so I actually got to call him up, and he normally sings the happy birthday to me incredibly off tune and or out of tune and everything like that. So I step it up a notch, right? And I just do the ukulele played horribly, and I sing children, maybe a little too much. Yeah, you think it was wonderful? Thank you there, James Smith. I really appreciate you you sending in a super chat with no message. I'll make up a message. Everybody continue sending super chats so we can support the LGBTQ community with money. Everybody needs money, so there you go. All right. Thank you, James. But first up on Today I Learned, we have when poor kids have access to food stamps, they live longer, earn more. I said eat more. That obviously they eat more. They earn more, they get more educated, live in better neighborhoods, and are less likely to get incarcerated. Every $1 invested into food stamps for children under 5 yields a societal benefit worth $62. So you take however much we're investing into food stamps, you multiply that by 62, and that's how much it benefits, I guess monetarily, society in general.
As if that's what matters. It fucking feeds kids.
Well, it shouldn't. This shouldn't matter, but to a capitalist Republican Party, I think it should, or I think it does. We got Cadence with a member chat, which doesn't pop up, but says, I need money, but even though I'm LGBTQ plus myself, if you need the Trevor Project, you need it more than me. Yeah, I agree. And I feel like all the charities that we donate to probably need the money more than I need the revenue from the channel. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Yeah. Dragon Master says Jesus is the best hide and seek player ever. That's what I was going for with the thumbnail tonight. Like it's Jesus hiding behind a lamp, and he's just kind of got one eye out. Like, can you guys see me yet?
Isn't he supposed to be busy taking the wheel?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, he takes breaks on occasion, you know. Anyways. Yes, Cadence, 48 fucking months. Thank you for being a Skeptic Mafia member that long. That's awesome. Anyways, so yes, it doesn't matter how much like monetarily investing in food stamps and other societal or social security or social programs like that. It shouldn't really matter the monetary yield or whatever. It really should just matter that you're helping feed poor kids. But the fact that food stamps, like social programs like food stamps, only seems to help society and help the, you know, people that are in those situations. It makes me think that Republicans, particularly, want to keep poor people poor.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Elizabeth Richardson says, not to mention, you know, feeding people that need it. Exactly. That's exactly right. And in fact, I believe it was it Tennessee? It was one of the southern states. It was either Tennessee or Kentucky. They actually implemented like a mandatory drug test sort of system as a trial program. And they ended up weeding out like 2 or 3 people.
Like that's
or,
it.
like,
It was
yeah,
stupid.
yeah, it wasted stupid amount of money, and they wasted millions of dollars on trying to weed out people, I guess, that were on drugs or something like that, huh? For a few $100 for that trial period. But I completely believe that Republicans that are voted into office, they seem to only want to keep poor people poor and make the rich people richer, which it baffles the fuck out of me. Like, I don't know how you as a human being can sit there and be like, oh, keep the poor people poor, therefore we're going to restrict social programs and all this other stuff. Like welfare programs, like we're going to restrict all these things to keep the poor people poor. And like, I don't know how you do that as a person without being like some kind of like sociopath or something. Fucking assholes. That's right. But yeah, Elizabeth Richardson says, when I was a kid, my mom got commodities and food stamps. Growing up poor wasn't fun. I'd like to see the people that vote against social programs survive on what we were able to get. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's pretty fucked up. What was it? Back when the COVID, like the pandemic was just now like starting, we had to go into like restricted travel and all that other kind of stuff. What was it? The head of the Treasury Department, I think is what it was. He lives in like a multi-million, huh? Yeah, $12 million home. This guy lived in a $12 million home, and he says it.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
The little bit that the government like helped people out with, which was like what, like a couple, like what was it, $600 or?
I think it was, but I think it was like $600 and they did it twice or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, so they did like two payments of $600 for people that needed it, who lived in a certain income bracket. And this fuck from the Treasury Department, the head of the Treasury Department, that lives in a multi-million-dollar home, that doesn't even, he doesn't go out and buy groceries from fucking Walmart. He pays somebody else to go and buy his own groceries. But he's like, you should be able to live on $600 for 3 months. Like, what the fuck kind of universe are you living in, dude? These people are so like disconnected from reality. It's not even funny. The barely bearable atheist says keeping the poor people poor means you can force them to work for crap wages or starve. Yeah, I mean, basically, of course, Florida right now is seeing how many of those jobs are really wanted by the people that are like, they're stealing our jobs. And that we come to find out that, immigrants were not stealing their jobs because they were taking jobs that the people that were complaining about immigrants stealing jobs didn't want. And so now Florida's got a whole bunch of abandoned housing projects and all this other stuff. But anyways, so that enough screaming about the economy, I guess right now. Thank you so much there, Barely Bearable, Atheist and Elizabeth Richardson. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for helping us out there. Next up, we've got, today I learned that octopus, Octopi like a single one? Like there.
Octopi is plural.
Is it?
Octopus is singular. Octopi is plural.
Okay. Today I learned octopi have 9 brains and 1 mini brain in each arm and another in the center of their bodies. Each arm can independently taste, touch, and...
Jesus loves the little children. Maybe a little too much.
Each arm can independently taste, touch, and perform basic movements, but all arms can work together when prompted by the central brain. That's just fucking weird to me, but I feel like a lot of people are like, see, yep, them's aliens. Jester says, here's hoping I get one of these jobs on the line so I can pay more soon. On the line, like, are you talking about the line here on YouTube or the line like at your job or wherever? I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much there, Jester. Appreciate you. Let's see. Let's continue to the next one. All right. This is an interesting one. So today I learned that the Fast and the Furious movie licensed its title from an old 1954 Roger Corman movie after rejecting other bad titles involving racing and wars. But Corman kept the rights to numerical sequel titles. That's why the franchise has no The Fast and the Furious 2. They had to go Too Fast, Too Furious. Too Fast, Too Furious. And then, huh? Yeah, let's see. List of the Fast and the Furious movies. Okay, here we go. So this is how they got around, because it's specifically The Fast and the Furious. So they couldn't do that too. So you got The Fast and the Furious 1, which, but you know, they licensed. Then there's Too Fast, Too Furious. And then what is this fucking the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious?
Those are they have like shorts and
okay.
online content.
I think I remember that. That's the only one they hyped up for, the Too Fast, Too Furious. And then they had The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Notice it's not 3. And then there's Fast and Furious. For some reason, the next one is Los Bandoleros.
Well, that was the next one that was released.
Los Bandoleros?
Yeah, but again, it wasn't the full feature movie.
Oh.
Los Bandoleros was
Oh, so that was like another one of those shorts things.
I don't know how long it was. It was part of the Dominican Republic storyline.
Oh, okay.
It was like a 20-minute short.
I had no idea there was a Los Bandoleros.
There's there's lots more content.
Yeah. So anyways, next is Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7, The Fate of the Furious, and then it's just F9 because they were like, fuck this shit with naming. And then Fast X, which is going to conclude with Fast 11, I guess. Or I don't know, the end of the Furious. I really don't know how they're going to continue doing this, but like, it's just forever Furious or something. Like, I mean, I feel like they took like naming conventions from goddamn Microsoft, because Microsoft has weird naming conventions for the operating systems. But anyways, that's why they couldn't just do 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. Jester says Blue Cross or Wally Wax. I feel like Wally Wax is a competitor for Buc-ee's. But thank you, Jester, for sending in another super chat. Oh, Vanta said The Fast and Furious. Wait, was so the first movie was titled The Fast and the Furious, taken away from that. But I guess The Fast and Furious would also work because that's not a direct, like, they wouldn't have to license it or anything like that. Anyways, all right. So let's see. That's going to be it for the Today I Learns. I hope you guys learned something. I know I did. Mainly about octopi and them having 9 fucking brains. But y'all know what's next? Comments! Comments of the day! Prepare to facepalm yourself in the next week. Woohoo! All right. So let's get these comments up here. We got some good comments tonight. From both on the channel and through the Twitterverse, which Twitter's getting shitty, so I don't know how much longer that'll last, but you know, we'll see. Anyways, y'all don't go sign up for Twitter. So this is on one of my shorts. My shorts have been driving in a whole lot of shitty people. This guy says, if you're an atheist, why do you attack anyone for what they believe? I mean, I don't feel like I attack anyone for what they believe. I feel like I, give people shit for the dumb things they say. I don't really see myself attacking anybody. Even when I feel like, a little bit of an attack kind of style is like prompted, I still don't like attack. I feel like that's kind of levying a whole bunch of this person's own personal, grief my direction. But in any case, they continue. You, of all people, literally shouldn't care about anything because it's all just random chance in your eyes. Well, you see, that's where you fucked up, because I don't believe any of that. Like, why should I care about anything? Well, let's see. Let's just think of this logically from an atheist perspective. I don't believe in an afterlife, or at least I don't know whether or not there is an afterlife. So I live my life as though there is no afterlife. That would mean that everything in this life has an immense amount of value. I find value in every single moment that I'm still alive. So why should I care about anything? Because it's the only life that I have. It's the only experience I'll ever have. So that's why I care about shit. I care about everything. Well, I mean, everything that I do care about. Like, there's no way somebody can care about absolutely everything, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's all just random chance? No, it's not random chance. Like, things have, like, certain actions have consequences. Certain things that happen in nature have consequences. So it's not really random. It's explainable. But I feel like when they say, oh, it's just random chance, they just really mean that, oh, we can't control nature in the way where we can prevent things in our life. So therefore, it seems random, but it's really just nature being nature. And I do believe in nature being nature and things happening as a consequence of prior either actions or events. And so I do believe in, like, the perpetual chain of cause and effect. So, I mean, but that's not like it's not random that if a tree falls, there's still a noise regardless of whether there's anybody there to hear it. And that's because of the fact that when a tree falls, it creates pressure waves in the air. And it's just that the way that we hear things, our brain interprets these pressure waves as it's communicated through, like, our ear canal and everything like that. So, I mean, it still creates sound because sound is just pressure waves. But the fact is that nature's gonna nature. And that's just, I don't know if that really explains it. It's not random chance. Why does Christianity bother you so much? This is a bit of a nuanced thing. So Christianity in particular doesn't bother me exactly. I mean, I've been exposed to Christianity all my life. I didn't have a problem with it then, and I don't necessarily have a problem with Christianity now. What I have a problem with are assholes that try to use Christianity to justify their shitty actions, their shitty words, their shitty positions. I hate it when people use their religious theology to change our governments and our societies so that they will force their religion on other people and take away rights like bodily autonomy rights for women or the rights of the LGBTQ community to, just be treated equally in our society. Like, those are the kinds of things that I have a problem with, but it's not like I feel like it's not that I can just only like have an issue with very specific topics. I have an issue with the entire religion because I feel like the entire religion, as it's practiced by its adherents, can only provide a net negative for society in general. So does Christianity bother me? No, Christianity doesn't. It's how people use Christianity that bothers me. And in that way, I get to, not really attacking, but I get to addressing the false claims of Christianity. So I'm not bothered by it. It just has a lot of wrong shit in it, and people believe that wrong shit. Next up, this is from Eric Hovind over there on the Blue Birdie app, huh? I hate this fuck too. Eric says, believing in the God of the Bible requires a lot of less faith than it does to be an atheist. Yeah, these people are stupid, honey. Do you want a mic? No. Okay. You'll just say, okay. She's just going to mumble rude things over there. Do you honestly believe that everything we see today is here by pure chance? So this is like a false dilemma, I guess, because it's either pure chance, whatever he's calling pure chance, or God did it. Magical wizard in the sky caused everything to happen. Caused every little minute thing that happens in your daily life to happen. The magical sky wizard did it. And this false dilemma here just goes to show how Eric doesn't really understand how nature works. Because like I said before, there's cause and effect. These things aren't like random chance or pure chance as he is kind of implying here. Although I would bet that Eric Hovind doesn't understand how chance fucking works or probability or statistics or anything like that. But nature causing things to happen without the need for any kind of intelligent being to cause them to happen is just how shit has worked for the longest time. So it's not chance, it's just cause and effect. And yes, I do think the cause and effect of nature brought us...
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
I think that nature, nature's cause and effect of all of the events that have happened have come to what we're experiencing today, has brought us to that point. I don't think it was a magical sky wizard that wiggled his nose and twerked his dick in order to get it all done. We got James Smith who sent a super chat saying because it's God's fan club, that's the problem. I agree. It totally is God's fan club. That's the problem. But Eric Hovind says that believing in the God of the Bible requires a lot less faith than it does to be an atheist. I disagree because the Bible has a lot of false things in it. Like an overwhelming majority of false things that are contained in the Bible. And it doesn't comport with reality. It doesn't represent reality in any kind of meaningful way as far as our lives go. So I don't see how accepting that nature just happens without the need for an intelligent agent to cause it to work appropriately requires no faith at all. Whereas believing in the Bible requires you to have a lot of faith that, this wizard in the sky knows what he's doing, is honest in his Bible, despite all of the evidence against this wizard's words. And I don't see any faith in methodological naturalism, whereas Bible shit requires a lot. We got Ramblings and Beyond sending in a super chat. Thank you so much. saying part 1, assuming that Jesus lived to about 35 and assuming that the universe is 6,000 years old, which I don't believe.
Just a little bit of money.
Using math, I figured out that Jesus or
I don't
God.
know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Let's see. I figured out that Jesus or God was only on Earth for about 0.6% of Earth's existence. Yep. I mean, that's just straight facts right there. No cap for real on God. Those are the only Gen Z slang words I really know. I was expecting her to still be staring daggers at me. Drew's book review says that just means that we are more faithful. Lol. And then Eric Hovind official, which I don't think
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
It just means we're way more faithful. That's right there, Drew. Daniel M says, David says, good night. Good night, David. I hope you have an awesome weekend there, bud. And I know that we've got July 4th that's coming up here soon, so I hope you have a lot of fun with that. I don't know. That's still a ways away. Yeah, the week after. So it's not going to intervene with anything we're doing, so yay. The barely bearable atheist says atheists will reign over Christians in heaven because atheists have more faith. Ooh, that's that's an interesting way to put it. And I probably, Eric would probably have a problem with it, but I'm going to let it go. We got more faith. Although I would say that I don't want to be anywhere near the God of the Bible because the God of the Bible is a shithead. Chug, chug, chug. All right. Let's move on to our next comment away from this guy. Oh, this kind of is a today I learned type thing, but I just wanted to read it and react to it. So there was this Wired article that says, believing in God can trigger the same reward regions of the brain as taking drugs. Brain scans have shown that religious experiences activate the same neural systems as drug taking. Apparently that was back in 2016, so... Oh, God bunghole! Just gotta grind up that pure God dust. It's not angel dust, mind you. It's God dust. It's got to be distinct. But I feel like that's what you have to do to get to this next comment right here. Is you gotta take a hit of that, and then Steven Tiger says this is Tony the Tiger's like weirder cousin, I guess. But this is Steven Tiger. He says, never mind Kalam and fine tuning and objective morality arguments. Here is the proof. Wait, I gotta say that right. Here is the proof. 1, the Bible is the Word of God. 2, Jesus is the Word. 3, so Jesus is the Bible incarnate. 4, Jesus is also God incarnate. 5, so the Bible is God. 6, the Bible exists. 7, so God exists. Well, none of it's proof, but I feel like the only thing he's argued himself into is that God only exists in the Bible. Like, the Bible is God, and if the Bible is God, then that's where God exists. He only exists within the pages of the book. I mean, that's a fair point, I guess. Yeah. Casey said, "Do you see how ugly this motherfucker is?"
I told you I don't need a mic.
You don't need a mic. Are we gonna?
I'm just being rude.
Oh, I.
Look at him. He looks like goddamn Skeletor, the fucking crypt keeper.
This argument is great.
That man ain't ever had the joy of a bowl of Frosted Flakes.
Oh man. Anyways, so yeah, this is obviously bad. I mean, these syllogistic arguments that these people put on Twitter are never going to be good because there's not enough room on Twitter in order to make coherent arguments.
Tater's gonna tate.
So Vanta Blue sent in a member chat saying Steven Tiger making a good use of taking a conclusion and making an argument out of it. Yeah, that's true. And then we got Ramblings and Beyond, Part 2. So if we took that 6,000 and turned it into the average human lifespan of 75, God arrived on the day of our 51st birthday and stuck around for 5 months and 12 days and then got martyred. Man, he did not stick around for long, right? Our 51st birthday. Wow, what a lazy fuck God is. Couldn't make it before then. I mean, I still got 13 years. 12. I got 12 to the 51st.
I mean, you're just a few months from being 39.
Yeah, I am a few months from being 39. Bet y'all can't tell because I'm so cute, huh? Yeah.
Use some moisturizer.
I need some moisturizer. All right, next up, the Freed Thinker podcast, which I did respond to them on this. It's not a bad question, although it's got a little bit of condescension in it. I don't know how they responded, but I'll try to look back later. Anyways, if the Freed Thinker is going to watch this or comment on it, they said, academic atheism. Please cite peer-reviewed articles by mythicists that argue for mythicism in any relevant journal. I'll wait. Well, see, the thing is that in order to build a case for mythicism, you need to go over a lot of information. So that's not really a good place for journal articles. Journal articles are more hyper-specific kind of topics, right? The did Jesus exist question or the historicity of Jesus question is so much larger than a journal article. So that's why in my response I said, well, Carrier is published through the Phoenix Sheffield Academic Press on the historicity of Jesus, and then you got Raphael Lataster questioning the historicity of Jesus that was actually published through Brill. Both of them are academic publishers that required reviews for the books to be published. So, I mean, they've been through all of the relevant academic rigor for mythicism to be considered academic. So, academic mythicism is a thing. And it's growing. Currently, there's at least 40 scholars that are either mythicists, agnostic, or sympathetic to the mythicist position. So, I mean, the numbers are only growing. And I feel like as time progresses on and more people leave behind their reverence for Christianity, I feel that it's going to become more popular. Although I think that it will probably only become as popular in the field as acknowledging that Jesus didn't resurrect from the dead as a matter of history, like as a historical fact, which, by the way, is still a fringe concept in New Testament studies. New Testament studies, the majority of those scholars believe that Jesus resurrected as a matter of history. And I don't think that mythicism will ever surpass that. I think that it'll always sort of trail behind that particular group. So, anyways, thank you, Free Thinker Podcast. I appreciate you commenting and asking questions. I love answering questions about that topic. So, this is taken from last year. And says, oh, I'm on the right side of history. God made the greatest immune system ever. Science didn't. God doesn't create viruses that kill people. Man does. Men, we can create viruses that kill people. We can genetically engineer previous viruses to make them even more deadly, or even deadlier. So, I mean, it's not that men can't, but also this is, of course, talking about like, you know, not pneumonia, but the flu or COVID or any of those kinds of things. Those are natural things that exist. Like, before we started fucking around with viruses existed prior to that. So, no, if God were to exist and God created everything, then God definitely created viruses. Of course, this guy right here would try to convince you that a woman eating a fruit salad in this supposed Garden of Eden that existed somewhere on the earth is what caused viruses to exist. But I don't see how that makes any kind of like logical or real sense. That doesn't map to how we understand reality to work. So, this guy is just all around a bumblefuck. Nee says, GE, it's going to be your 29th birthday. Yeah, it's going to be my 29th birthday. No, it isn't. 29th? No. I'm not 29? No. 39? Yep. Fuck. God, I gotta tell you, every time I get up out of my fucking bed in the morning, like, I'm reminded I'm 39, because I get up and I'm like, oh, well, fuck. Almost 39. She just has to be specific there. All right, well, that's gonna be it for the comments tonight. And of course, Ember in the chat says, "GE, you're still a whippersnapper." My gray in my beard and my hair doesn't say so. Anyways, we got Brosifus that's going to be coming in doing some shitty ass science. So I hope you guys will give him your ear and he's going to explain some shit to you. So I will just turn it over to him and hope my channel doesn't get taken down. Anyways, here's shitty ass science. Shitty ass science. We're gonna answer some science shit really wrong. I know it's not my normal shirt.
And it's on inside out. Fix your shit.
Fuck, why you gotta make me take off my shirt in front of you? GE's gonna kick my ass again. I don't want you singing my titties. God said that those are reserved for whoever I meet and marry.
I'm not interested in your titties. Nobody's gonna marry you. And that's not, where's your shirt?
Listen, I gotta do laundry, okay? And so I'm just having to wear, something else. It's just in the floor. It didn't smell too bad, so I just picked it up. Fuck. Okay. Anyways, what's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I hope y'all are doing great tonight, and you end up going to hell where you belong. Anyways, here is Dog Lover that's asking what kind of fish this is. Oh man, this is a dangerous one right here. This is called a mud pupper. A mud pupper. He wallows around in the mud, and see, right now he's in attack formation. He's like, and he's just sitting there because now things are gonna think, oh, he's asleep. He's not gonna be doing anything. He can't see me. And then it's gonna walk on by, and then he's gonna be like, and then he's gonna get it, and he's gonna do this rolling thing in order to like break its neck and shit, because these things are fucking savages. And then he's gonna and then he goes away. Of course, this is pretty shallow water for the mud pupper. What the hell? Oh, you're so sweet.
I hope you know this is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. She took care of my sleeves. Thank you so much there, Casey. You're so much better than your husband.
I know.
Yeah. All right. So, This mud pupper right here, he can be vicious. He is in attack mode, but he's also one of the sweetest things in the animal kingdom. All right, now when he attacks you, if he's hungry, he might eat you, but if he's not, then he might just lick you to death. Okay? And so he attacks you and he's like, la, 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 la. But be warned, okay? They also lick their own assholes with that tongue, so you don't want like to get it all over your face and shit. You know, you want to try to keep a distance on that tongue they got. But anyways, so this is a mud pupper. Don't let them into your house because they'll stay there. Also, don't feed them because they'll keep coming back. Oh shit, we've got a part 3 from Ramblings and Beyond. Holy fuck. Part 3, Ramblings is saying, all the while he knew where you were. Your entire life, you knew.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Ramblings? I don't think so. All the while, he knew where you were your entire life, knew you were struggling and lost, while in your life, he told you,
you have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
He told you how much he loves you and gave you life, advice, and martyred himself to prove it. And done. Thank you for your 3-part super chat there. I appreciate it a lot. Excuse me, I had some beer before coming up here. Yeah, God did all those things, and he's omnibenevolent, and we should all be gracious enough to give him our hearts and our minds and praise him and suck his dick all day. Okay, because he deserves it. He martyred himself after being away for the longest time, and he came down here and he made us all feel guilty. So we should feel guilty and just give ourselves to him. You know, face down, ass up like he likes it. Jester says, KC, thank you. I thought the world would end. Oh, for my sleeves. Yeah, she fucked these sleeves up. She's like, oh, fuck these sleeves. You know, I'm not some plebe like fucking Godless Engineer who will tolerate sleeves. I just fucking can't. Okay, it's throwing me off. Anyways, I hope you guys will stay away from these mud puppers and or adopt one, I guess. If you want to, make sure you keep them all wet and in the gutters. And I guess I will see you heathens later. Hope y'all go to hell. Bye, y'all. That was rude. What are you talking about?
You hope people go to hell?
Well, fuck yeah. I hope people go to hell.
Why?
Because they just...
Mean.
What?
That's
It's
mean.
mean? What the fuck are you talking about?
Shitty ass science. We're gonna answer some science shit really wrong.
Why do I gotta be so rude? It's because I'm fucking pissed off. I gotta do laundry and shit. Why don't I have a maid, GE? When are you gonna start paying rent? When are you gonna start paying for a maid? Well, you know, I don't know. I gotta go and drink some more. Think about this.
You mean the beer that we bought?
Yeah, the beer that we bought. I go get drunk. I'm gonna have some water.
My mom gave me a beer for you. I had it in my car. I forgot to bring it in.
Oh, she had a beer for me.
Yeah, it was one of those that she got when Lowell was here.
When Lowell was here? Oh, okay. So, what, he liked those lagers, huh? IPA. Alright, so obviously, dog just having fun in the gutter. Who doesn't like wallowing in the gutter? I do. Anyways, we got the Lord Jesus in the chat saying GE doing miracles with invisible wine casks and shiz. I don't know who keeps coming up with these fucking accounts. Anyways, so that's going to be it for Shitty Ass Science tonight. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I know Bro Cephas did. But now, you know what it's time for? Divine hiddenness. This is Bobby Conman Conway. This is Bobby Conway. You might know him as the 1 Minute Apologist. What?
I just went a whole other direction with the 1 minute.
1 minute. Casey went a whole different direction with 1 minute, and that just killed it right there. But now he runs a channel called it's like Christianity's still real to me, damn it. Or no, wait, Christianity Still Makes Sense. That's his channel name. No, that's true. Christianity never made sense. But he's got in this video here, he's going to be going over the divine hiddenness argument. If you guys don't know what the divine hiddenness argument is, it basically says that, well, if God is all powerful and all loving, then, you know, he would, you know, reveal himself to people in ways which they would be convinced, so that, you know, like, everybody would know that he exists and everybody would believe in him and nobody would go to hell or whatever in the fuck. But what?
Whoever the account is, the Lord Jesus said, "Don't blame me for Christianity. I was Jewish."
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Nee says earmarked for Josephus's rent money. But anyways, so there are people that remain unconvinced about God's existence. And so therefore, since God is all powerful and all loving, and he hasn't revealed himself in some kind of way to people, to some people out there, then that means that, you know, that particular kind of God, the all loving and all loving and all powerful kind of God, doesn't exist. And so, I mean, I take this a little bit further and I say that this would prove certain interpretations of the Christian God not true. You know, there's obviously ways in which you can like argue around divine hiddenness, but in Christianity, but I think as far as considering God to be omnibenevolent and all powerful, I feel like you know, those particular attributes can't be true, which renders the Christian God not real. And so the divine hiddenness argument, I feel like is a pretty decent argument against the Christian version of God, but very specifically Christian version. And now this guy is going to scream into the video, full face, snot going down like, Christianity's still real, damn it! And we're just going to get an argument against the divine hiddenness thing. What's that? I'm going to skip past this very first part here, because it's just like a little introduction that is supposed to tease you, but it's a little confusing. All right. Cross-examine apologetics team, Bobby Conman. Let's go, Bobby Conman.
According to John Schellenberg, in his influential book, Divine Hiddenness and Human Reason, he contends that if an all-powerful God existed, then every reasonable, non-resistant person would come to believe. As you can see, he claims there are those who are non-resistant and don't believe because there hasn't been enough evidence to convince the non-resistant skeptic.
You know, I would consider myself to be in the non-resistant skeptic area because I am open to God being proven to exist. So I am open to that. It's not like I'm saying, oh, I can't believe in God whatsoever, or God, you know, will never be able to be proven to me. I don't shut myself off like that. I mean, I definitely am Gnostic about the Christian God, meaning that I feel like I know that God doesn't exist just because of, you know, the requirements manual called the Bible doesn't comport with reality. Therefore, because that book describes their God, that means that their God doesn't comport with reality, which is to say that it doesn't exist. If it doesn't comport with reality in some kind of way, then how can you say that it exists? But I definitely am not closed off to the idea of being proven wrong about that. I'm still open to it. So I would call myself a non-resistant person that's open to the idea of God being proven. But I still remain unconvinced because the evidence is just poor. The arguments are poor. So I am one of these people that is being discussed right now in the divine hiddenness argument.
So according to Schellenberg, we've got a sender problem. Let's consider a syllogism of Schellenberg's argument as found in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Premise 1. There are people who are capable of relating personally to God, but who, through no fault of their own, fail to believe. Premise 2. If there is a personal God who is unsurpassably great, then there are no such people. Conclusion. So, there is no such God.
So, I mean, obviously this is a well-constructed syllogism here. I mean, so I don't find syllogisms to be all that beneficial, like in having discussions or anything like that. I mean, like as far as like understanding the divine hiddenness argument, I feel like you can use it to if you're studying that. But as far as having a conversation, I wouldn't bust out syllogisms like, fucking Bertuzzi. But in any case, so I would definitely say that the divine hiddenness argument does have meat against like specific definitions of God. And the specific definition would be a personal, all-powerful, omnibenevolent, which is what unsurpassably great kind of implies there. I feel like this definitely rules out a God that's described in Christianity, which is what he's arguing for here. He specifically, this is the one thing about this video, is that he's kind of, begging the question. He's begging the question in this because his whole argument is going to require you to assume that the Christian God exists, first off, or that the Christian God's the only possible God or something like that. So, I mean, the entire video is going to be begging the question. Just keep that in mind. So now let's continue.
How might we respond? Personally, I think the problem is with premise 1, through no fault of their own. This is problematic and assumes too much. We can't assume the person who perceives himself as non-resistant is so entirely objective as to not be blinded by other things which might be blocking his ability to capture a clear peak of God as one who exists.
Now, so I would say that there's a lot of fallacies that are wrapped up into his objection to the first point here. Mainly being that he's kind of poisoning the well here, because he's basically saying, oh, well, these people claim that it's no fault of their own, but really there is a fault of their own, or it is a fault of their own. Like they're to blame for not believing in God. And so he's basically poisoning the well against this group of people that are open to God existing, but yet still do not believe. And so there's that one. There's the false dilemma, because he's basically saying, oh, it's either my God exists and people just don't want to believe in him, or there are these people that so it's the false dilemma is that my God exists, and he is the one that everybody should believe in. And then the other group over here is just, totally resistant, like, to believing in his particular version of God. But where how it makes it a false dilemma is because he only assumes his version of God. He only assumes that his version of God or his version of anything is the only one to be considered. And he doesn't really explain how the divine hiddenness argument, even if you could get around it, could lead to several different versions of God. And it also doesn't take into account the reasons why people don't believe, because he just automatically assumes, oh, these people are just resistant and they don't know it. I believe in the Bible what it says is that they suppress the truth in unrighteousness. And this entire concept comes from the Bible, basically saying that people that don't believe really do believe. They just don't want to believe, and they reject God. They just don't want to believe in God, so they deny his existence. And see, that just, I've heard that this can be seen as like an ad hominem attack, because while it's not directly an ad hominem attack, you're basically saying that these people are lying. They are lying about why they don't believe. And I feel like just assuming that they're lying just because your holy book says that they are is just ridiculous. Like, if I tell you I'm not lying, I don't believe because the evidence isn't good enough, then you shouldn't come back with, nah, you're lying. I know you believe in my particular version of God, my particular interpretation of my version of God. You definitely believe in it. You just don't like me. Or like God, rather. But in any case, so there's a lot of fallacies that are kind of jam-packed in here.
Among the things blocking us can be presuppositions, unresolved traumas, disjointed rational conclusions, and all sorts of other influences.
What's a disjointed rational conclusion? Like, I feel like that particular phrase is like, it's a rational conclusion. So you're rational in coming to that conclusion, but it's disjointed. Yeah, honey, his brain is disjointed from his body. You are correct. Ding, ding, ding. Let's see, what is disjointed? Disjointed, lacking a coherent sequence or connection. Well, okay, so I kind of feel like this is an oxymoron here then. Because, like, how can you have a disjointed rational conclusion? Because, like, lacking a coherent sequence or connection, I feel like you can't have a rational conclusion if you don't have a coherent connection. Like, I don't know what that phrase is supposed to mean. Like, that seems like a nonsense fucking phrase. But in any case, so basically he's saying that we have unresolved trauma that's preventing us from believing in God. And I mean, trauma might be an explanation for some people to start questioning their faith or even lose their faith. But I feel like that's not the ultimate reason as to why people don't believe, because there are plenty of people out there that have trauma and end up becoming more religious, getting deeper into their religious beliefs. And there are other people that, suffer trauma and they start questioning things. They think about things differently and they come away not believing in a God. Like, their trauma resulted in them considering, well, if God was really omnibenevolent, then he wouldn't have allowed this to happen. And then they stopped believing in that version of God. It's not due to unresolved trauma. It's due to the trauma revealing an aspect about God that they thought was true, but is really just flat fucking false. It doesn't comport with reality. Noticing that some aspect of a definition of a deity doesn't comport with reality doesn't mean whatever prompted this investigation is the core reason for rejecting the conclusion. That's just simply not how anything works. But this again plays into the ad hominem aspect of this video and the emotional manipulation that Bobby Conway employs throughout the video. Because, mentioning unresolved traumas and all this other stuff, this is all emotional language. And he's going to get into some more emotional language, trying to place the burden or the guilt on the people that have walked away from religion, trying to convince them that they are the problems, they are the problem, not God, when really it's the definition of God that is the problem.
there can be a combination of rational, relational, social, emotional, and volitional conditions that impair one's ability to be fruitfully objective.
Well, I mean, I do have to agree, somewhat that the, hold on, I gotta fix something over here real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I do feel like, that there are certain situations that can impair somebody's ability to be objective and rational about certain things. But I don't think that it's on the atheist side that people are irrational about their conclusions. From what I can tell, as far as my interviews with atheists and talking with atheists, the rational conclusion is, methodological naturalism, which is basically put is just that nature is going to nature. Nature exists regardless of whether or not there is an intelligent deity out there. The intelligent deity doesn't need to interact with nature in order for it to happen. Nature just works. Nature is going to nature. And so I feel like there are a few things that can cause somebody to be irrational about their conclusions. Now, whether or not atheists are partaking in this irrational sort of thought process here, we would actually have to analyze like the reasons why people are an atheist. Like, for instance, you wouldn't be able to apply what Bobby here is saying to me. My conclusion is definitely rational. I took a look at all the evidence. I found the counter arguments to Christianity as well as other religions out there, to a deity in general, to be very compelling. And I feel like one of the most compelling arguments against God is the fact that this universe, nature in general, reality in general, just operates regardless of its effect on us. And because we can't actually show that God has any kind of hand in nature or has any kind of hand in natural processes, that means that we literally have no evidence for God. And that is where I get to, I don't believe in God. And and then separately from that, coming to like, I don't think that the Christian God exists. Like, the Christian God does not exist. Like me stating that as a positive claim, that comes from a critical analysis of the Bible, showing how the Bible doesn't comport with history, and it doesn't comport with what we understand about reality. We can't actually prove miracles to happen because miracles require a suspension of reality. And, there's a whole discussion over how do you define the supernatural, or how do you define miracles and all this other stuff. But ultimately, I feel like the most likely answer is that reality just operates, and we cannot determine that a deity is necessary for it to operate. Therefore, there's no reason to posit some kind of magical wizard to make it operate. Now, applying Bobby's, assumptions here, to me, they just wouldn't work, because I don't operate in an irrational manner on this topic. Now, I'm not saying that I can't be irrational in other ways, but on this particular topic, I feel like I've analytically come to my conclusion in a rational way. And obviously, this is me just analyzing my own path, but I feel like any objective outsider looking at it would see that, I have evidence, or I have arguments that are supported by evidence that support my conclusion and all this other stuff. Like, I'm following the laws of making a logical and rational argument. So you can't say then that I'm being irrational on this. It's Bobby using his ad hominem argumentation here to just simply claim that atheists are being irrational, or that atheists have experienced something in their lives that caused them to be irrational, or something like that. And So in that way, they are suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. And I feel like it's really shitty to sit there and be like, nope, you don't know what you actually think, but I do know what you actually think, and you actually believe in God. You just don't want to. I feel like that's kind of a shitty position to take.
We cannot underestimate the effects of the fall and how it limits our capacity to remain free of bias. No one is fully objective.
So basically, he just said that Eve eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil caused us to be basically obstinate and ignorant, and caused us to have these issues that atheists have. Like, I mean, I can't imagine any other situation where this explanation would work. It's like, hey, Bill, why the fuck did you shoot Jerry in the face last week? Well, you know, that damn bitch in the garden, she ate that fruit and now Bill's dead. Like, how, like, are you really going to accept that? Like, oh, you know, Cassandra over there, she ate a fruit salad in the fucking garden last week, and therefore Bill had to die. Like, this is not a rational. He just got done talking about how atheists have an irrational conclusion, or they came to their conclusion irrationally. They have some kind of past trauma that causes them to think irrationally about God. And then he springs magical fucking wizards on us, like planting a tree in the middle of a garden, telling some woman not to eat it. She eats it, and that causes all of the suffering and death and, I guess, irrational conclusions that we fucking come to. Like, this doesn't make fucking sense in reality there, Bobby.
East of Eden. Besides this, I think those who claim that they are truly non-resistant need to be honest about themselves and ask, am I really non-resistant to Christianity? There are probably some features of Christianity that don't sit well with such non-resistant people, which undoubtedly is skewing their sight. Things like sin, hell, judgment, what the Bible has to say about sex.
I like how he kind of obfuscates all of the issues in the Bible, because it's like sin. Well, what is sin? Sin is just transgressing God's opinion. What are God's opinions? Well, God's opinion is that you should be able to purchase women like cattle. You only use, mind you, to clean the house, take care of the kids. Oh, also incubate kids. Whether it's whether they're willful about it or not. Also another part of God's opinion is that you should be able to have concubines. You should be able to work for 7 years in order to purchase a woman and her concubine. If that woman can't give you a child, or maybe she's she just can't give you a child or won't give you a child. Oh, then you can impregnate their servant girls. And they can give you children, and you can be their father, that way. And so, like, transgressing God's opinion, being sin, doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me, considering that I'm far more moral than this God. Because there's no way that I would ever concoct a society like the ancient Israelite society. I would never, I would come up with such a better society. But I mean, that's of course because I live in a better society. I know how a good society should be run. I understand these things. And from a methodological naturalist position, we can understand the ancient Israelite society as being a shitty fucking society who had these bloodthirsty, savage type people that bartered for women, that, destroyed entire cities and took women as plunder, that would kill small children and babies because that's just how you did shit back then. Like, from that perspective, it makes rational sense. But from the perspective of, like, God and his whole idea of sin and how, oh, atheists have a problem with sin. It's like, oh, yes, we do, because a lot of the things that God says is a sin is not really bad, which brings me to my next point. He lists off there the whole sex part, right? Like, he's like, oh, like they don't like the commandments against sex or the laws against sex. Oh, you mean the fact that the Bible says to kill LGBTQ people? Like, is that what you mean by sex? Because a lot of times when they talk about the sex thing, they're talking about that. I mean, he couldn't possibly be talking about no sex before marriage, right? Because, I mean, you obviously have instances where God is perfectly fine with people having sex outside of marriage. Jacob bought 2 women. He married the 2 women, but he also had sex with their servant girls who became concubines at that point. Against their will, by the way. Like, they didn't have a choice in it. They just, you're getting pregnant, is basically what Jacob said. And then you got the several different situations all throughout the Old Testament where that exact thing comes up again and again and again. So it's definitely not, don't have sex before marriage. That can't be what he's talking about there. But in any case, he obfuscates what he's talking about here, and he's talking about the LGBTQ community and what the Bible says about them. Mainly that, the Bible says that you should kill them. Of course, he's not going to admit to you that the Bible says that you should kill LGBTQ individuals, but the Bible does say that. He can definitely turn it sideways and shove it up his fucking asshole. That's right, honey. I'm right there with you. Home team. But I mean, Bobby Conway is not going to say the Bible says kill LGBTQ people. He would hide behind, oh, well, that was a law that was given for, a certain time and place and people and all this other stuff. And then I have to ask, well, is God really then like all knowing and all powerful and all this other stuff that he has to make laws that people will accept? Like, you're trying to tell me that this guy can tell you exactly how to diamond encrust the interior of his home, but he can't tell you not to rape women, or not for his future priests and shit, not to rape little kids? Or, hey, how about just adding one commandment in there, like slavery is bad, okay? Like, you could have just added one of those things in there to the commandments, but God doesn't have enough foresight to do that? The fuck are you talking about, Bobby? Every time I say Bobby now, I feel like it's a fuck you.
One way at getting at the so-called non-resistant person's resistance might be to ask something like, so tell me, why don't you believe in Christianity?
Oh, okay. That's a good question there, Bobby Conman. So basically, I don't believe in Christianity because I investigated the claims of Christianity, in your handy dandy Bible, and they did not comport with reality. And because of that fact, it resulted in me not believing in your particular deity. And that's it. There's just no evidence to support that your deity exists.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Elizabeth Richardson said, "Damn it, Bobby!" Hank Hill. Oh, damn it, Bobby.
At that point, we might get a brief download on some of their objections. And guess what? On hearing these, we will have entered the detection zone.
Pew, 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 pew. Detection zone! Oh no, I'm being detected! Don't scan me, Bobby Conman! Don't scan me! Is this like a full body scan thing like they do at the hospital when they don't know what's wrong with you? Or like, what are we fucking doing here? Detection zone? What are you gonna detect?
As those objections have just revealed where their resistance lies.
Okay, so we're in the detection zone. So where does my resistance lie? Well, I'm not really resistant as much as just can coherently and competently analyze the evidence. So it's not resistance. I mean, unless you consider resistance being like doubting and questioning your bullshit. I mean, I'm resistant to bullshit. Maybe that's my resistance. I'm resistant to bullshit that doesn't make sense, that is incoherent, and doesn't comport with reality. So there's my resistance. We're in the detection zone.
As I conclude, here is some advice I'd like to offer to the person who thinks they are non-resistant and yet wants to encounter God. First, don't underestimate our ability to be skewed about our own biases.
I mean, I realize that I have my own biases. I totally acknowledge that, but I also do my best to be objective and try to, step outside of myself and really objectively look at whatever piece of evidence I'm given, like whatever argument that I'm given to support the existence of God. I mean, I try to look at it objectively, but I feel like what he's trying to do here is more of this poisoning the well or emotional manipulation thing, because he's trying to get people to be convinced that these atheists, they're just succumbing to their biases. They don't care if they have biases. Like they have a bias against God because they like gay sex or something like that. Like they just want to go out and fuck all the time, or they just want to go out and sin. I've covered the whole they just want to sin argument in different videos. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, considering that Christianity, you have a readily available way to like resolve sin and overcome sin. So I don't need to leave the religion in order to solve the problem of sin. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to need to leave the religion for that. And so, I mean, ultimately, I feel like this point right here just doesn't make a whole lot of fucking sense. And it just reveals how emotionally manipulative Bobby Conman is.
Second, ask yourself what you are looking for. Are you being realistic? Like expecting God to do something for you that he doesn't do for others who believe?
I mean, see, we're not the narcissistic ones as far as this particular topic goes. Like we're not being narcissistic here. It's not like I'm expecting God to do something for me that God won't even do for his people over there. It's that I'm expecting God to not be a shithead, and that applies to everybody regardless of whether or not they believe in him. That's what like. I feel like that's not an unreasonable ask. Like, hey God, could you like stop it with the slaughtering of innocent people and babies and women and stuff? Like could you just stop that? Just don't do it. And of course, God in his drunken rage is like, I'll fucking slaughter you. Ow. But, huh? Yeah, I'm fine. But in any case, like I'm not thinking, oh, God should do this for me, even if he doesn't do it for these other people. I think God should just not be a shithead, and that applies to everybody. Like don't do something special for me, just don't be a shithead. But the God in the Bible, the God in the Old Testament, he's a shithead. He definitely is. And if the God of the Old Testament is the same God that's in the New Testament, then Jesus is a shithead too. Fuck them all.
Have you set the bar so high so as to ensure that you'll always have a finger to point at the sender? Third, do you think it's realistic for you to be able to set the terms for how God should make himself known to you? Fourth.
No. I'm not like, as far as divine hiddenness goes and God revealing himself or providing convincing evidence for me to believe in him, I'm not sitting here like defining how that would go. I mean, so if God is all powerful and all knowing, then God would know the type of evidence I would need in order to believe. And I haven't been provided with that. I mean, I don't expect God to provide that for me, but I don't have that in any kind of argument or empirical evidence or anything like that. So I mean, I'm not sitting here dictating the kind of evidence or what the evidence is. I'm not trying to be the arbiter of evidence. All I'm saying is that God should know what would convince me. Therefore, if I'm not convinced, then he remains hidden and he refuses to reveal himself to me. So, if he exists, the other option is, of course, his Christian God doesn't exist. And I feel like that's more parsimonious with the evidence we have in reality.
Ask yourself, what are your objections to Christianity?
What are my objections to Christianity? Woo! I don't know what that sound was, but I channeled my inner wolf. Anyways. Huh? A Howard Dean moment? Who's Howard Dean? Oh, yeah, the guy who ran for president did the woo! And then everybody was like, that guy's a fucking psychotic. Yeah. But anyways, so there's a lot of reasons why I don't subscribe to the Christian God. And that's it can pretty much be boiled down to there's no compelling evidence that supports the conclusion that the God of the Bible exists. And there's no compelling evidence that suggests that Jesus, well, for me specifically, mythicist, I don't think that he existed in history, but even if we assume that he existed in history, I don't think that there's any compelling evidence that suggests that he actually was the Son of God. So that's what it ultimately boils down to, is just there's no sufficient evidence to prove the conclusion. And it's that simple.
As mentioned, it's there you might detect where your resistance has escaped you. Fifth, don't quit seeking. Humbly ask God to help you, even with your unbelief. Finally,
just really let that sink in for a moment. Like what he actually just fucking said, okay? What he actually just fucking said was, ask God to help you in your unbelief. Which basically means you first have to believe in God in order for God to give you the evidence, like either the experience or anything like that, in order to believe in him. And then God will help you in your unbelief. So while you're not believing in God, you've also got to believe in God in order to get the evidence you're requesting to believe in God. Like, how does this make fucking sense? Like, if you have to be like, well, you first have to believe me before, you get proof that you should believe me. Like that's putting the cart before the horse. This is such circular thinking here. This is irrational. This is an irrational line of thought. And the fact that Bobby Conman here can't see that it's an irrational line of thought, maybe he's the one being irrational here.
I'd say, while you may not have the experiential sense of contact that you'd like, don't underestimate the evidence Christianity has on offer.
What evidence? I specifically talked about the evidence for Christianity. You specifically asked about the evidence for Christianity, but you're saying, oh, well, if they don't believe in Christianity, then they must not have analyzed the evidence.
Just because God's presence isn't obvious doesn't mean his presence is non-existent.
I mean, so I feel like this is a bit incoherent as far as talking about the Christian God. Okay, here's why. If we were talking about a general God, like this general idea of a deity, or maybe other definitions that we currently have, this could be true. Because, there are other definitions of deities that, don't have them being personal. They don't have them being so interwoven with daily life and all this other stuff. But, with the Christian God, he's personal. He's supposed to be omnipresent. Like he's everywhere. He's omniscient. He's all powerful. He's all of these great things. And Bobby here is going to sit there and tell me that fuck, I done lost what he said. Shit.
Finally, I'd say, while you may not have the experiential sense of contact that you'd like, don't underestimate the evidence Christianity has on offer. Just because God's presence isn't obvious doesn't mean his presence is non-existent.
But the Bible literally says that God's presence is obvious. Like it says that, you know, God is everywhere. God is in everything, and all the evidence is all around you. Basically, look at the trees, right? The Bible presents a look at the trees argument. Well, I could agree with that if there was any kind of evidence of God, you know, in nature. But as far as we can tell, there is no evidence of God in nature. So, I mean, he's sitting there acting like, you know, just because our God isn't obvious, therefore that doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. But at the same time, his own book is saying, well, God is obvious and you have all the evidence. So, I mean, it's kind of, I feel like what Bobby Conway is saying here is that it is at odds with his theology. And it's kind of a weird situation that he's putting forth here, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's fucking throwing me off.
The gospel is a powerful case for God's love, demonstrating the distance he came in the incarnation to reconcile us to God.
I mean, I feel like all of that could have been done with an email. I mean, by that I mean that God didn't have to like make himself incarnate in a human body just to be crucified on a cross in order to change his opinion about fucking sin. Like, he could have just been like, oh, hey, you know, this sin thing, you know, as long as you believe in me, don't worry about it, okay? All right, we're just going to put that aside, don't worry about it. Like, he could have done that. Like, that's a simpler thing. Like, why the human sacrifice here? Why is that required? Like, I don't understand that part. Like, if you're talking about an all-powerful magical being, right, that could basically use the reality stone to make reality whatever the fuck he wants, I mean, why in the fuck is a human sacrifice required? Like, in any natural explanation for, like, oh, well, why did he have to die so that these people could survive? Like, we can explain that. Like, there's several different movies out there you can think of where, oh, like, I guess, you know, speaking of Thanos, the Avengers, you know, there was one possible future, and that one possible future where everybody lives except for Tony Stark. And, you know, it's like, well, why did he have to die? Well, he had to die because somebody had to snap the fingers and everything and make Thanos go away and all this other shit. Like, that's all understandable from a perspective of, you know, stuff in motion that can't be controlled as far as like nature goes, but also from a very limited perspective. Like, God is unlimited, right? God's unlimited in his power, his intellect, his, you know, benevolence and all this other stuff. He's unlimited. So it makes sense from a human perspective for somebody to have to give up their life for some tangible reason. But for God, who could just change shit around at the whim, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
The evidence of his death and resurrection can't be ignored. The arguments against the resurrection are so weak that one is more rational to believe in the evidence for the resurrection than to believe in the evidence against it.
The evidence against the resurrection is harder to believe than the evidence for the resurrection. And therein lies his bias. He's obviously starting from his conclusion and then constructing arguments that only lead to that conclusion. This is begging the question. He's obviously not considering other faiths. He's not considering the real reasons why people reject either the resurrection or his God. And the fact that he thinks that it's irrational to be convinced by the evidence against the resurrection, which the evidence against the resurrection is really just the arguments against their positive arguments for the resurrection. And they don't have any physical evidence. They don't have any textual evidence. All they have are the Gospels, which I get kind of textual, but they were written much later. They were not eyewitnesses. There's several problems with the Gospels. You know, I've got whole fucking YouTube videos on, here on the channel that discuss the problems with the Gospel evidence. But ultimately, he's like, well, they say that miracles are not something that can be proved to have happened in reality. But hey, I got a book, and it talks about a miracle and how this Jew resurrected from the dead. So therefore, it's more rational to believe what's in this book. And then, of course, I feel like after this was shot, I'm sure there was somebody sitting there being like, damn it, Bobby. This is just poor argumentations. Begging the question, he's using false dilemmas galore. He's, using emotional manipulation tactics in order to try to make us feel guilty or feel bad about not believing in God. And then he comes at us with all of this bullshit about the resurrection being a rational conclusion.
All that to say, it may mean trusting in the evidence of the resurrection and following him, even if it means you are apparently bereft of the kind of experiential contact with God you were in search of.
So basically, he ends this video because he's going into his whole, shilling moment here. He ends the video by saying, you should believe in the evidence for my God and Jesus' resurrection, even if you don't believe it. Even if it's not convincing to you, you should believe it. Like, how the fuck are you actually going to convince people with that? Are people convinced by that? Like, has anybody went to a pastor and explained the problems that you have with the Bible, with the beliefs in general? And they're like, well, maybe you should just go ahead and believe it. I mean, I get it. You don't have the coherent kind of evidence that you should require to believe in something, but just go on ahead and believe it. Like, has that ever happened to anybody? I don't know anybody that's happened to, and I don't know anybody that's been convinced by that, but maybe there's somebody out there that this is a convincing argument. Like, this kind of argument convinced them to believe in Jesus. Like, holy shit. Of course, why didn't I think? Just throw all of that rational conclusion shit out the window and let's just go on ahead and believe a Jew came back from the dead because his daddy wanted him back from the dead. And that somehow made him rethink this whole sin business and allow people to get into heaven finally. Like, well, how am I supposed to, like... How am I supposed to believe in that kind of bullshit when, it's a totally irrational conclusion? But I've got this guy here that's telling me, even though it's irrational, you should still believe it.
Hey, just wanted to say you don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just got to suck my dick.
Jane Pusecker, who's a Christian, Jane says the death of Christ is supposed to symbolize dying to oneself to follow Christ. That is why the blood of Christ is important to them. Well, so, I mean, I get the theological reasons behind it, right? Like, there's a lot of nuance to be had in this discussion of, like, why was Jesus' death necessary? So, I understand it from that perspective, like theologically in the context of the surrounding pagan religions and the mystery religions that also required and taught those same things. Like, I theologically understand why that's necessary, but as a matter of reality, as a matter of how things work in reality, I don't understand Jesus's sacrifice. Because, if God can shape reality to however he wants, I mean, he's done it several times, right? If he can shape reality to however he wants, why was Jesus' death necessary? He could have easily accomplished it other ways. He didn't need some kind of sacrifice. He definitely didn't need to sacrifice himself to himself in order to change his mind. He could have just changed his mind. So as a matter of reality, it doesn't make sense. As a matter of theology, I totally get why it's necessary. But as a matter of reality, it doesn't make sense. So anyways, I think that's it for him. I think he's going to go into his whole shilling spiel.
In time, through faith and obedience, I believe if you truly seek him, you shall find him. For again, no receiver will be without excuse.
So basically, nobody would be without excuse. Even if you don't believe in God, if you go ahead and believe in him, and then you will get evidence.
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Basically, Bobby Conway just said that you have to believe in God in order to get the evidence that you should believe in God. So even if you don't believe, you should, I guess, feign belief. And at some point after you start really believing, then the evidence will be presented to you. Ramblings and Beyond said, Low Bar Bill technically did that. Yeah, you gotta love Low Bar Bill.
For more information on...
Now it's shilling. Okay. Yeah, and as far as like religion goes, I don't think fake it till you make it should work, like, at all. Like, I feel like God would know that you're faking it. And if I were God, I would just be even more pissed off that people were faking it. Like, you don't really believe in me, you sumbitch. like that would just piss me off more. I mean, I don't know. Anyways, that's going to be it for our video tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you will, please let me know what you thought down below in the comments section. While you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe. We would also appreciate it if you would share out our video with people that you either love or hate. The ones that you hate will probably leave hate comments, and those make for good fodder on the stream here. So, if you will, just, I guess, subscribe. And everything. We're about to go into the Skeptic Mafia comments. If you don't know, the Skeptic Mafia gets to pick the video that we watch on Friday nights, and then they subsequently get to leave their own comments about the video. So we are about to head into those now. If you want a chance to leave your comment, have your voice be heard on the stream, then become a Skeptic Mafia member. Also, super chats are a great way to get direct interaction with me if you don't want to become a Skeptic Mafia member and still have your sentiments read here on the channel. So, with all that out of the way, I hope that you heathens have a great weekend. I know that I am. I got my son here this weekend, so we're going to have a lot of fun. But if you're going to be leaving out right now, then I really appreciate y'all being here. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we got the Skeptic Mafia comments that we are going to be going to right now. And let me get to the post, and then we'll get it on screen. Come on, comments. Device not connected. Wrong device. Hold up, I gotta get this situated here. crap. Hold on. There we go. Zoom. Everybody's like, what in the fuck is he doing? Just fucking get on with it. No, stop. Sure, fucking take a picture. Nope. I held on to the Alt button too long and it started to take a screenshot of the thing. Anyways, all right, here we go. Skeptic Mafia comments. Thank you so much, Skeptic Mafia, for leaving your thoughts down here. Drew's book review says, question, why don't you believe in Christianity? A, because it's not true. Because I just want to add, the fall eliminates our ability to be free of bias. Well, if this God character exists, whose fault was it really? Humanity did not create this reality in which the fall would have happened. God set us up to fail. Don't underestimate our ability to be skewed by our own biases. This is good advice in general, not just as it relates to the God question. Perhaps he should consider it for his own worldview. I agree. I definitely thought that was good advice, but I feel like he himself was probably falling into the whole skewed perception or bias kind of thing himself. No, I do not think I get to set the terms for how God will make him, her, its, they, them known to me. Simply put, I would not care how this happened, but it has not. So that failing is not on me, but on God. But Bobby Conman, he wants you to believe that it's your fault there, Drew. Just because God presence is not obvious does not mean it's non-existence. It's very true, but like anything else, i.e. wormholes without evidence, even vague or unobvious evidence, we can't say it does exist. That is also true. They obviously want to say, well, it's got to exist if you can't prove it doesn't exist, but that's irrational. Wormholes in theory could exist just like God, but since there is no evidence of said existence, why should we believe it to be so? Just because no known law of the universe prevents said existence. Excuse me. Anyway, until next time, heathens, keep on reading. Thank you so much there, Drew. And we got Jonathan Nickel, who says, this guy speaks of evidence, but presents none at all. He also, after presenting a reasonable syllogism, he spends a couple of minutes claiming that there has to be something wrong with the atheist, rather than not enough evidence. Attempted to gaslight the atheist rather than addressing the question does not impress me in the slightest, and I doubt it will work for anyone else either. Like all other apologetic arguments I have heard, I am sure this one only serves to bolster the faith of those who already believe. I would suggest 3 far more plausible reasons for why this God of his remains hidden. 1, he does not want to reveal himself. 2, he is incapable of revealing himself, meaning he's not omnipotent. And 3, he does not exist. God number 1 is not only petty, but also by nature of the fact that he is reputed to punish non-believers by use of eternal torment, he would also be evil. God number 2, who is not powerful enough to reveal himself, does not sound like any God worth his salt. And since Christians assert that their God is not evil and they do not like to furnish him with omni-traits, including omnipotence, it is fair to say that the divine hiddenness argument shows that if any God does exist, it need not be the God of the Bible. That's very well put there, Jonathan. I appreciate your comment. Oh, we got Deus Ex Tomato coming in with the ASCII saying if you're going to try to argue for the resurrection, it would help if you actually give evidence for it. Otherwise, you're just making shit up and expecting us to believe it. Anyone can do that, which would explain why there are so many of these Christian channels doing exactly that. Well, anyway, here's some ASCII. Now, that's true. Before we get to the ASCII, that's true. A lot of these Christian channels just say what people are wanting to hear. People are sucked in by it, and they constantly want to reassure themselves by just being told things that they want to hear. And, you know, I'm so happy that my channel is, you know, composed of people that are not afraid to like disagree with me, to post their disagreement and to not just take things that I say as fact. You know, people on the channel have held me to a higher standard by providing evidence and making logical and coherent arguments. So, you know, it's always something I strive to better myself at, but these Christian channels like Bobby Conway, Cross-Examined, Cameron Bertuzzi, Mike Winger, they all just sort of say things that people want to hear, and that's the only reason why they consume the content. So anyways, Deus Ex Tomato has, oh, it's a cute furry thing with a gun. That would be confusing. And if you don't want to be held at gunpoint, give us some actual fucking evidence. Meow. Anyway, like, subscribe, notify, do all the YouTube thingies, and join the Skeptic Mafia where you can watch these videos beforehand and comment on them, just like I'm doing right now. And then John will read it out live. Yay! Well, you know the deal. Eat your fucking fruits and veggies because tomatoes are goddamn delicious. Tomato out. Thank you there, Deus Ex Tomato. Appreciate you. Ninjester says, all right, time for my most honest, in-depth, and biting critique yet. Casts vicious mockery and simply laughs in Bobby's face for 9 minutes straight. The necessary portion of this reading is done. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is more amazing in this world than the theistic ability to eternally make the most unimpressive excuse for divine hiddenness sound worse each and every time they rephrase it. I swear there's a secret evangelical lottery out there who can say it the worst. All-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, somehow weaker than Genie Jafar, who can prove his existence as long as someone rubs his lamp. Giggity. If GE is still reading this part, I hope you get a kick out of it, because no, you will never have this time back. No refunds on time. Thank you there, Jester. I appreciate you. And then finally, we got Polly Pockets, who says, hi, people. He keeps saying that the evidence for the resurrection is better than the evidence against it, but he doesn't give us any evidence for the resurrection. Weird. Anyway, join the mafiosos. It's awesome. Mafioso for life. Thank you so much there, Polly Pockets. And that's going to be it for this stream tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. Really appreciate everybody that, decided to send in a super chat. You guys are awesome. I see everybody in the comments section over there. Appreciate all of y'all for sticking around tonight. I know Paul is talking about some Kent Hovind shit over there on his channel, and also Jimmy on the line is doing "Cause I Wanna" kind of thing. So there's multiple places where y'all can go to continue the hangout, but I got to get out of here. I'm going to maybe play some Diablo after I get Xander down or something like that. But in any case, I hope you guys have an awesome night, and we will see you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.